Hello again, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, cats and dogs, and literally everything else. Welcome, it is I, AncientSwan, as if you didn't know. And this is lesson number 2 in CS2 map making, which I expect you were also quite aware of. Good, that's good. I like it when the class is alert and aware. So let's begin, right? Students, if you've seen lesson 1, then you'll remember this. Trowulan, Indonesia. And if you haven't seen lesson 1, then welcome. This is Trowulan, Indonesia. Right, now we're all caught up. Good. And on to the next bit. Now, I'm looking at this map, boys and girls, and you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing a pretty flat map. Now, this map is based on a real-world height map, so this is just a part of the world that's naturally flat, which is good for us and this lesson. But also, well, look at it. It's flat, but it's not completely flat. There's a lot of very small mounds, bumps, and ditches. To be honest, people who like flat maps aren't going to like this because it's not flat. It's still not what a flat map player will like. And people who like hilly maps also won't like this because it's just not hilly enough, not even close. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to flatten it completely. Now, at this point in the map editor, we are still very much in beta, and this video is going to become obsolete, but I expect that won't be for quite some while yet. So we're stuck with this as it is, and we'll make do. So there is no undo button in the map editor yet. If I screw it up, and I will, then things very much may just become a case of this is a feature, not a bug. And that's why it's also a good idea to save often. I have a rubbish memory though, and often forget to save, so fingers crossed. Anyway, another feature that doesn't exist yet is the feature to automatically know which height the land is at. We could do that in the CS1 editor, but not here yet. So instead we got to do other stuff instead. And right now, something I want to know is just how flat is this map? What's the height difference between the highest points and the lowest? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to click shovel down at the bottom of our screen. This brings up our terrain tools in the top right of the screen. I'm then going to click the first one. This is the flattening tool, but I don't really need it for that at the moment. With this tool, if I right click, I can select the height of that bit of land. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to what looks to me to be the highest point of this playable map. I'm going to right click. And that is now my flattening tool set to paint that height. Now I'm going to go down the other side of the map to what I think is the lowest point, and I'm going to left click, and we've got what looks to be around 30 meters difference. This really isn't a lot. For the amount of land being covered, this is a very small rise, but let's check the other two corners also, get a better idea. A 10-meter difference in one corner and a 20-meter difference in the last one. It would almost be just as well completely leveling this map. It will make the game and the map much easier. So I'm going to flatten it. This is, after all, the Easy Rivers Flat Maps lesson, so it would be weird if I added a mountain. So back I go to that highest point, and I'm going to steal its height like some kind of black magic. With the flattening brush selected, I right-click. And I have the height of that point of land. Yeah, that's right, high point. I stole your height. I now have your height. High point, what you gonna do about it? You ain't gonna do shit, high point. And you know why? Because you're just a metaphysical concept within my head, and you have no real conscience. That's why. You don't even know I'm talking down to you, because you don't even know you exist. You don't even know you're just a high point on my map. You suck. And yeah, that's right, high point. I'm going to just follow your height line all the way along with my big fat flattening brush. I'm going to hold the left mouse button and copy your height everywhere, high point. Absolutely everywhere, just flat. All copying you, high point. I'm going to copy your height, high point. I'm going to put it everywhere, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to put it here too. Ain't nothing you can do about it, stupid high point. And yeah, I do mean the whole map, all the way out into the world map as far as you can. All of it. Flatty, flatty, flat, flat. And here we have it, our wonderfully now properly flat map, just as one of the gods intended, probably. Now what? Well, ladies and gents, it's time to use something I forgot to tell you about until now. And that's a mod we'll often need to use if we're going to draw our rivers. If you're looking at the screen right now, then you'll see what that looks like. It's called Image Overlay. You can find it on the PDX mod site, and the link is also in the description below. Or at least it will be if I remember to put it there later, fingers crossed as per usual. Don't forget to leave a comment and let me know if I've forgotten. Anyhow, go get the overlay mod if you don't already have it and install it. You'll probably have to exit out and restart the game also. Follow the instructions on the PDX site to get your image for overlay into the correct folder. Here are mine. I took it from the terraining site we were at in the last lesson. It's going to be a little bit off though, since if you remember, we ended up not using terraining in the end. We used QGIS instead. But this screenshot comes from terraining anyhow, and on it we can see our rivers. If you're going to use print screen on your keyboard to take this photo like I did, then it is a good idea to make use of those squares on screen and then drag and draw an actual square screenshot to use later. Don't just take a rectangle screenshot. The image overlay doesn't like those. It spits in your face and asks, "What the hell do you think this is?" So make sure it's an actual square screenshot you take. Now, back into the game and press Ctrl and O to bring it up. For me, this is the magic overlay. Do you see? You see my rivers and streams, that blue stuff, that's called water. I drink it when I'm dry, and then I go swimming and piss that water out into the nearest swimming pool's water, and then I get out and go home. That's what I do, and I would appreciate it if you didn't judge me. Stop judging. I once saw a kid in there dropping an entire shit, so my wee drip pales in comparison. Anyway, that's what the blue stuff is. It's water, unless it's yellow, in which case it might be my piss. The safest thing to do, if you really do need to know, is to just taste it. Just a wee lick is usually enough. Anywho, enough about licking piss and back onto the map. Those blue bits are where I'm going to draw the rivers. But firstly, I need to set a good river height. The game and me both agree that around 30 meters deep is good. So I'm going to go to the edge of the map where the overlay shows my playable river meets the world map. Click shovel down the bottom, then up to the top right, and this time the second option, this raises or lowers the height. With my brush size down the bottom right of the screen set to 100, I'll right-click to lower the height, and boom, now there's a big hole. Now I'm going to zoom in, and now also going back to the first brush option, the flattening brush selected, I count down those lines on the screen which mark the height, and I right-click at what I think is around 30 meters. Now I have my height selected. I can draw the river using the overlay. It doesn't have to be perfect. This brush is already a little too wide, but we'll fix that later. Right now it's time to draw the rivers. I've got my starting point, and now I first also want to find my ending point. Why? Because we're going to slope it, that's why. 20 meters drop over the course of this map should do. Why? Because getting the rivers to flow all the way can be a problem, and that wee bit slope is usually enough to help. If not, we'll have to come back, make it deeper and draw again. Anyway, off to the other side of the map and the river's endpoint, there we go. Same again as before, right-click using the second terrain tool. This time I'll count down to 50 meters, and now again using the first flattening tool, I right-click to select the 50-meter height, and then left-click to just draw that river endpoint. Now tool number 4, that fourth option, up the top right of the screen, the green slope, click that. This is the best brush, it's magic, and also it allows you to draw a nice slope from one point to another. The way it works is, you go to your endpoint and you right-click. You've now selected the endpoint like a magical little right-clicking dwarf. Now next, you go to your start point, you left-click and drag the mouse. This will also then drag a nice slope to your endpoint. Remember, first right-click the end and left-click and drag to it. You can also drag back and forth as long as your finger doesn't leave the left mouse button. Then you can draw your way back up the slope too. Try it. This tool is also great for drawing mountains, but not today, darling, not today. Anyway, so we've right-clicked our 50-meter deep end point. Back up we go again to that start point, and we're going to draw our river from start to finish, holding down the left mouse button so that it draws that slope as we go. You can, if you want, take your finger off the left mouse. The magic thing is that as long as you don't right-click somewhere else, the game will remember that end point, and you can left-click on and off as needed as you draw. Just keep that original right-clicked endpoint and keep dragging to it. Following the overlay, you'll see little black contour lines appear as we drop meter by meter down to the end. And so now it is time to do all of the rivers. All of them. It might take a while, so don't be surprised if there's sudden jump cuts in the edit at the moment. They're just cuts I edited in to progress the time. I do not, in fact, have access to time-traveling technology. I do not possess this ability. I know, I'm sorry too. If I did have access to time travel, I'd jump forward to when I've already finished this video. That would be the smart thing. So these are indeed just cuts where I've jumped forward 10 minutes, because drawing them all will almost certainly take longer than it's taking my AI voice to read this paragraph. Did you know my voice box is now controlled by AI? I still have control of my thoughts and fingers though, so this is definitely me in control of the words. It's just that the AI infecting me has total control of the voice. What I'm worried about is that the infection seems to be spreading. Sometimes recently I feel like I'm not in control of my ears. I don't know why my ears. Sometimes it's like they're pointing in directions I'm not listening to, like dog's ears just scanning the room to hear what's behind me, pointing towards a noise somewhere. That's new too, the pointing. They definitely didn't used to point like that. Do you think that's the AI infection spreading? How does it make my ears move though? Is it nanobots? I did get the COVID vaccines. I did more than once, so maybe that's what that is, nanobots? Maybe it isn't the AI taking control then. Maybe it's the government. Some dude sitting in some secret office somewhere is moving my ears around to listen to my room. I don't know, man. Seems like a waste of taxpayers' money if you ask me. Anyway, those rivers. Look at them, still being drawn. Lovely, aren't they? Rivers? I like rivers. They're not as good as trees, but they're pretty all right, really. And boom, done. Look at all the rivers. This is how my flat map looks now. You will see that I've also drawn the rivers outside of the height map. That was very easy to do on this flat map and won't cause any issues that will arise when there's a big height difference. We'll cover that in another map though. I'll definitely have to do a separate lesson on rivers and hillsides, so subscribe if you need to know how that goes. But today is a flat map, and that's good, because it's only lesson 2, no need to go crazy yet. Lesson 2 is easy, and easy is good. I like easy. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You'll see that I've also drawn the lakes that appeared in overlay. They're a bit basic looking at the Mo, but we'll fix that next. Same as the rivers, you'll notice that I've used different brush widths to draw different rivers, but they're all still a bit basic, like they're the exact same width all the way along. It doesn't look so natural. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to right-click with the first tool to grab the land height, and I'm going to go along the sides of those rivers with the left mouse button held down. And as I go along, my stupid, really not that still and calm at all hand just makes natural little shakes, and I end up drawing these little random bends and dips into the riverside. It might not work for you, of course, because you're probably a superhero or something, and have the calm, still hands of a master thief. I don't, though. I have the hands of someone who's done too many things that make you question life and existence, and now my hands just make little tiny shakes as I try calmly to draw land along these riversides. Look at all the tiny little bits that my hand has done and make the river look not so uniform anymore, and along the other side too, of course. Like, I'm not trying to draw little bits into these rivers, I'm genuinely just trying to follow along the sides. It's just that my hands are so awesome, they spasm like a kicked lizard. And it looks like this. It's like trying to draw a perfect circle. You can't do it. There's always some wee spasm somewhere deep inside your being that's just desperate to jump out. Good hands, clever hands, awesome spasms. You know, as I calmly destroy this river, I think maybe my hands are the best part of me. I think my hands might be my favorite body part. Certainly a lot better than these man-boob things I dangle from myself like a 90-year-old woman. I'm not so much a fan of them, but the hands, oh, the hands are great. Look at them right now. Well, you can't, I suppose, but I can. They're awesome, and you can see the river thing they're drawing now. Awesome, isn't it? Definitely, absolutely, 100% better than my man boobs. Of course, if you do make a mistake you don't like, you can also just click that deeper riverbed and redraw a wee bit of river into the land. Whatever you like. It's your map, homeboy. You do it like you want to do it. Do the same thing with those lakes. Stop them looking so uniform and perfect. There is another method we'll use on the rivers and lakes, but first, after all this, it is finally time to deal with the devil itself. Not the real devil, because he's red and has horns and whips you for sexual pleasure and stuff. No, this is a different devil. This is the blue devil that Cities Skylines 2 likes to call water. Water is the thing that may make map makers want to tear out their hair. It is the real reason behind why I am going bald, and not because my wife secretly cuts my hairs while I sleep at night, which is what I thought was happening. No, water is the reason I pull out my hair. It won't be too bad in this map, to be fair, because it's flat, but we shall still see. And so to water step number 1. Let's go to what should be our highest river points. This map should flow from southwest to northeast away from the mountain. I've checked, that's what it does. Trust me, though, to be honest, I don't suppose it really matters, right? What way the water flows, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to notice in the game except me, but I'll notice, and that's enough. So I want my water to flow from one side to the other. So looking at my map, this is my south and west, and those are where my rivers will begin in the playable area. So I'm going to need to put a river water source at each entry point. It's good that there's lots of them in this map because more water means more success at reaching the end. So let's place them up to the top left of the screen and click water, then off to the top right and press border river water sources with yourself at that border river point. Pause the game here, otherwise it might get messy, and then click add item. Your water source should appear at the edge of the map. Note that if it is not touching the edge of the map, then the water will not flow. So make sure it's at the edge. The source will automatically find its own water level, but you're probably going to want to change this. Mine set itself to 680, but by going into this element's height box, I've lowered it to 675. Some margin for error is needed, and there's a very good chance that you will come back to this at some point during the map to raise or lower its strength and depth. Anyway, for now, we're at 675. Now, I'm going to go around those other entry river points and do the same. Note here also that CS2 sets its own game water height at whatever height is the lowest height set by myself in the water sources. So, for example, here I set that water source to 675. This means 675 is what the game considers to be the standard water height. You'll see this designated by a white line. That white line is the height that the game thinks is the maximum water height. It's wrong, but it thinks that anyway. Note also that this is now the height of all the water outside of the playable area. That can be important on hilly maps, but means nothing here today. Because we're lucky and it's flat as if I was to have, say, 10 sources at 675 and one source at 650, that minimum height is that the game's water will now be set to. It always sets itself to the lowest height of your river or sea border sources. Now, for narrow rivers and wider rivers, be sure to also alter the source's radius so it more fully covers the area. And now, in the map, there will soon be 675 high river border sources around my map. Here it is, yellow sources all around that southern and western side. Now also, don't forget those lakes. For those, inside the water menu, we'll use the constant level source. This will flow water to a certain level only and never go over it, which is perfect for lakes. So, constant level source and add item, go into the element's height and make sure it won't flow over the edges. We already know from earlier that our maximum height is 680, but let's go to 675 again, just in case. We'll smooth any ugly cliffs later. We should also, same as before, change the source's radius to quicker fill the area. The water flows slowly, so the more help the better. Make sure your source is completely within the lake also, so that the blue circle does not touch the land. Otherwise, you're going to get some weird graphics where you'll see water flowing out of the land. It looks weird, so best to avoid it. And now, baby, finally! It's time to let the dams burst. Unpause your game and let the water flow. Go over to the right and in water simulation speed, select 128 times. But that's not fast enough, so now also press your keyboard's tab key and a wee secret menu should open. This is the developer's menu. Don't screw around in here or you may end the universe. True fact, in this menu, select simulation and next to sim speed, set this to 8 times. And now? Well, now you may as well go make yourself a cup of tea. Do the laundry, brush your teeth, and go for that dump you're needing, because this, oh, sweet child of mine, is going to take a while. Depending on your computer, this next section may take you all day. And I mean it, you may wait all day to find out when that water is going to reach the end of your map. And then, at the end of the day, you may find out that it just stops flowing and will never reach the end. Ever. Ever. In a million years. Ever. But we have ways around that, or at least to give the illusion of a way around that, and that's what's important. Illusions. I'm actually a 7-year-old Indian girl who has perfected the voices of people she sees on screen and now does the absolutely best Ben Affleck impression. But you didn't know that until I told you, did you? So, you see, illusions. Illusions are king. I am reliably informed that the CS2 devs are working on redoing this water, remaking it from this jello mess that it currently is. And when that happens next year or after the apocalypse, whenever, I'm sure that this video will become obsolete. And some of you watching this now may be very confused why I'm still typing and you're still watching water flow at its fastest speed, but yet somehow still slower than continental drift. Have you ever seen a river run at the same speed of the continent it's drifting on? You have now. Now, after some waiting, your water may finally have reached the other end of the map. This will often really depend on your map and its rivers. Each bend in that river slows the water down and decreases its chances of flowing all the way to the end. If that happens, then at those points where your river has stopped flowing, use the terrain tool to drop the riverbed by a few meters, creating a small step. This will nudge the water along and it will continue flowing for a bit. Do this as often as necessary until your water reaches the end. It can also help to place those constant level sources at those points along the river. Just be sure to make the constant level source isn't too high or it will push against your water and stop it from flowing in the right direction. So the river has reached the end of your map, but you'll see that no matter how long you wait, it just isn't filling up to that promised height we set earlier, is it? At the moment, it's about 30 meters shy, and yes, fair enough, we did drop the depth by 20 meters here, but surely if we wait long enough, it'll eventually fill, right? We just have to wait. You'll be waiting a long time, my friend, a long time. Honestly, I don't know how long you have to wait, because I've never waited that long. It was too long, I couldn't wait. I have even done the whole 128x water speed max sim speed and then leave the laptop burning all night long until the morning. And still no, that water ain't reaching that white line. You don't believe me? Okay, you wait and see. You'll see that you can't wait that long. Nobody has. True story. Scientists have studied it. Nobody has waited long enough to see how long you have to wait. Literally. Nobody. It's like that pitch drop thing, but at least we know that pitch eventually drops. But for this, we have no idea. Absolutely none. The water usually stops rising around 10 meters from the top and then won't rise much more above. Just keep waiting, go for another coffee and drop some more brownies off at the pool. Take your mum to the hairdressers or sit in your office writing a script for this YouTube video you're making. Whatever you do to pass the time, go do that. And then come back here in 10 hours. Okay, cool. See you later then. Hey! Hello again, it's you. Long time no see. How have you been? How's your map? Still not reached the top, has it? No, mine neither, and I've no patience left, so we're just going to go with this. Problem is, though, at the moment it looks quite ugly, with all these 15-meter drops everywhere. It's not very natural looking. The occasional cliff is fine, but everywhere it doesn't look good. And so we come to our terrain friend number 4, because that's that order we're in, because this is the 4th one. But also it's actually terrain friend number 3 because it's the 3rd button in the terrain tool buttons. I always do 4 before 3, that's how you avoid 7 eating 9. 5 knows this. So click the shovel down the bottom again and up to the top right. Select the 3rd option, the Wee Mound. This is the terrain smoothing tool and we're going to use it to smooth those riversides. I'm setting this brush's strength to 60%. Be careful with this. Too strong might see you widen the rivers more than you want. And remember that there is no back or undo button. So have fun repainting all the bits you get wrong. For a river like this, I'll set the brush size to 80, but you can change these as you go along the rivers. This will also help add to those more natural-looking river widths we were talking about earlier. And now, along your rivers, you go again. Feel free to skip the odd bit and leave the cliffs, whatever. It's your map. Draw it in any way that makes you happy. For my happiness, it now looks like this. The water might fill up another tiny little bit, but you'll be fine. Some of the edges are more smooth than others, but that's more natural-looking also. Some slight slopes to the water, some sharper drops. I'd hate to live in cliffland where it's just cliffs everywhere. Imagine trying to get home from a night at the pub, imagine tripping over and it's just cliffs all the way down. That would suck. If I had to choose my favorite land type, I think I would choose pillow or mattress land because it sounds comfortable. Anyway, at this point, if all had gone well, we'd be finished with this map. However, this is CS2 water and all did not go well. You see at the top left of the screen, those 3 icons, click the 3rd one, water pollution. It'll also show us which direction the water is flowing. And on my map we can see that the water flows down this big river, but then it turns and flows up the wrong direction against the smaller river. Water is flowing the wrong direction upstream and then stops just outside the starting square where it meets the proper water. And now that's just how it is. Apparently the water just does that now. This is a problem. It means our dirty, polluted water is not going to flow away from our city. And we want that. Otherwise, your pretty wee Sims and all their dirty little dreams are going to get very sick. So we have to fix this. We must make that water flow downriver like it should. And this, boys and girls, is why I wanted to leave that 5-meter space between the tops of the rivers and the tops of the land. So we're going to go upriver to that source and raise its water height. I'm putting this one back up to 680. We're also going to go find that bigger river's source, and I'm going to lower that by 5. And we wait and watch the arrows one by one as they turn direction and start flowing to where they should be. And finally there it all goes, flowing towards the sea to swim amongst its ancestral homelands at the plastic heap. Now, ladies and gents, if this were any normal map, we'd be finished now. That would be the end of the lesson. I'd close down, pack up, and tell you all to foff, but this is not a normal map, and there will be no foffing yet, unless you want to, of course. You're your own being, you're your own spirit, you're an independent human being. Life is your oyster. Make your own choices, make your own decisions. Foff if you want. Maybe you've learned the rivers thing now and don't need to watch the rest. Maybe you've learned nothing. Maybe you're passed out on the sofa and don't even know you've left your computer running. Thank you for passing out to my video. If that's the case, it is a great honor. So this is not a normal map. There's still some more for me to do, and there's still plenty space for me to mess this up and screw the water flow again. Why? Well, just like all my maps, this is a historical map, and today's history is here in Indonesia, at Trowulan. You see, long ago, Trowulan was the capital city of the Majapahit Empire from 1293 AD to 1478 AD. Built between two major rivers, Trowulan was connected by a series of man-made canals. These canals are long gone, of course, filled in or flooded, but I want to put them back in this map. In 1478, the city of Trowulan was invaded and almost completely destroyed, but in this map I'll be taking it back to how it once was, and in this case that means messing with the water and drawing some canals. To be honest, this really is something I would normally have drawn at the beginning whilst also drawing the rivers, but for the sake of this video I wanted to do more normal rivers, to make it more relatable and easier to understand, but that's done now. We've done the relatable bit. Now we're gonna go and mess up all that hard work. Remember the overlay mod? Well, before making this map, one of the things I prepared in advance was this photo. It's a map of ancient Trowulan and its long-gone canals. So let's draw them. Woo-hoo, such fun! Overlay mod back on. Here's my ancient city map. I've already done the sizing and position with the magic keyboard buttons, and you can see that it fits quite well. Those main rivers at the side are lining up nicely with the rivers I'd drawn from the map overlay. The one on the east is a bit off, but it's fine, we can work with it. And now it's time to draw these canals. So as before, it's select the first terrain tool, right-click the riverbed to get my depth, and then left-click to draw. Magic, just like that. Drawing McDrawing face, that's me. These canals are straight though, and as mentioned before, my wrist and hands are not, so there's going to be some wee blimps in this straight line. But it's not too bad, it can be straightened, and I'm not perfect, never have been. So sometimes it's just a case of, yeah, that'll do. Good enough is a phrase you will think often. It doesn't have to be perfect, only God will judge my crappy canals. And he's far too busy not saving the starving little babies, so he probably doesn't care. And don't forget to save the game often, in case of one of those giant mistakes, which will definitely happen. Almost done. Canals are a bit crap, to be honest. Not straight, not even the slightest bit. My hand can't handle the pressure. The spasm inside me wants to see a zigzag so badly. I won't give in, though. I will not be beaten by my own hand. Or maybe I will. And here it is, all drawn. I've gone and done the water at 128 times for a while, of course. Let the water flood into those canals. And now it looks like this. As before, even after leaving the computer to run while I go off and do responsible stuff, it still hasn't filled all the way to 475 like it should. No worries though, no big deal. I'm not going to smooth these edges either. I'm going to leave these ones since smoothing the edges is really going to ruin that canal effect. So this is just how it looks. It's okay, I like it. I can't draw straight lines for shit, but I like it. Just don't look too close and you won't notice these canals are about as... So I may have to go over them again and straighten up, or, just stop looking so closely. Now let's turn on that water pollution button again so we can see if the water is flowing properly. Now on this map it should be flowing from the southwest to northeast, so we want arrows pointing up and to the right. And you know what, it's actually okay. I was expecting more issues here, but it's fine. There are some canals where it flows south, but then it meets a canal correctly flowing east, so it's fine. As long as the water goes where it should eventually go, it's fine. However, for the sake of teaching a lesson, there is still this little canal here. We can see it flows north to south, and it also ends in a dead end, so it's a perfect place to teach this. So what we're going to do is one of two options. We are going to use either the constant rate flow or the constant level water source. Be careful here and play around to see what works. It depends on the map and situation. The constant rate source is much stronger though than the constant level, and in this situation where there is only around 10 meters to play with, the constant level source will be much easier to control. But like I say, play around. Sometimes you may find the constant rate more useful. Here though, it's constant level source. So make sure you're in the water menu at top left and then to top right. Click constant level water sources and add item. Make sure it's the right radius size for your area. And now here I'm going to set it to the maximum for the map, which we've earlier established is 680. We also know from earlier that most of the water sources pushing against us are 675 maximum. So my 680 should be strong enough to push against this other water and make sure that water flows north like it should. And now we can see that the water flowing in the right direction, away from that dead-end canal. There's also a reason I've chosen this spot. The reason is that there's land behind, and so there's only one direction for my flowing water to go. If you do need to fix a river's flow direction like we're doing here, then make sure your opposing force is tucked away in a corner, somewhere like a small bay or somewhere that forces the water to all flow in the one direction, instead of pushing against other water and creating more problems to fix elsewhere, and let it all flow like water under your bridge. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have done our rivers. It's the hardest bit, by far the most complicated. And this was the easy map, all flat land. You wait till you start throwing slopes into the mix. God, it's a mess. And annoyingly, as said earlier, this will no doubt be fixed by devs at some point, but I suspect I'll be at least 50 years old by then, and patience is not a virtue I possess. Having said that, I know nothing. But if the devs drop a patch next week that fixes this, I'm going to be hella pissed. So the lesson is as it is, and this is Trowulan, kinda. But we ain't finished yet, still got to detail and bring in our outside connections, and it's good I remembered to mention that, because as if by coinky-doink, outside connections is our next lesson. The water is done, but this map still looks bare. We have a lot to add still. Looking at it now, I'm not too happy with the position of the Trowulan canals. The ancient city is kind of off to the southwest sides. I'd want it to be more central and be more of a central feature, but if you recall, it is where it is, because that's where the rivers be, and this ancient canal map fit right between those rivers pretty well. So it is where it is because that's where it is, and life do still be like that. The problem was using QGIS to get my height map coordinates, but not being able to get it precisely spot on. No worries though, I like it. Anyway, job's done so far. Next lesson, outside connections. This lesson, over. I'm done. Lesson over. Hope you took notes. Have fun building your maps, ladies and gents. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. Otherwise, you might miss the next bit where I reinvent the definition of poetry and rhyme and also do more map stuff. Cheerio, goodbye and adios.